Hello, product people. Welcome to the Product for Product podcast, hosted by Matt Green, data advocate and product manager, and Masha Mikanovsky, product leader and author. Our goal is to serve the product community by helping you find products that can help make your work in product management easier. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Product for Product podcast.
Welcome back, everyone. On today's episode, Michelle and I are excited to be speaking with Alex Murauski, the CEO of Alconost, about helping product teams with localization. So let's dive in. How you doing, Alex?
Doing great. Doing great. Did you, Matt? Marcy?
Doing wonderful. Hey, Michelle.
Hey Matt, hey Alex, welcome to the show. Where are you joining us from?
I'm joining from Lithuania. The company is located in the United States, but I'm now living in Lithuania.
You might be our first guest from Lithuania.
I think so. Yeah, that's great. It's great to have international guests on. Yeah.
Welcome to the pod. Today we're going to talk about localization, and that's a really interesting topic for product people. I believe it's an interesting topic. Being the Canadian over here, many products in Canada, we have to support English and French. Depends on the sector and stuff like that. So in my career, I had to deal with that many times, both from engineering, but also from product end of things. So that's why I think it's a really interesting one. And but tell us first about yourself. You know, how did you get to start your company, Alconost?
Alconost, yes. It's been 20 years I'm running this company, and it happened to me occasionally. From my school years, I was fond of developing software. So it was Delphi that time, Pascal, and for some reason I wanted to build a product. I don't know why. But I wrote a small software which would create a mathematical graph of mathematical functions, and I somehow wanted to be like those big guys like Microsoft, and I just created an installer and created a documentation. I don't know why nobody used that, but me. But I created this as a like packaged like ready-made product. And then while at the university, I read an article about shareware. Probably you know that's very long story. So the guys, they just built their software, uploaded to internet, and made money of it. And I was so impressed by that. So I decided I can do that. I have a product. What I need is just a payment processor to build in and the website. And I upload the product and I sell it, and that's it. But my product was not in English at that time. But I understood that, well, I need some English there at least. So I translated it, of course. So I've got two languages, and I uploaded. And to my surprise, in one, I just woke up early in the morning, checked my email, and I had my first sale. I earned $90 from someone from England buying some software teacher. I just remember his name. His name was Brian Popham. Maybe he is alive now. I'm just sending my greetings to him. 20 years ago, that was
your first client. That's amazing.
Yes, I remember, and that was a eureka moment. So well, I just will be making money. I was 19 years old, and that was just my dream.
Amazing.
That's great.
Well, but the second sale came in 4 months. So it's not again. I understood that it's difficult. There is not only product creation but also marketing, and I knew nothing about marketing. By this time, I'm a builder. I consider myself a builder. So from that time, I'm building something for 20 years. Been building some spin-off projects, etc. So, but from that experience, I understood that. Two languages is a must, and I shared my experience, this experience with some of my friends, and they started to come. We had a community of developers, and they started to come asking me to translate something. And that time, I just had a girlfriend who was translating into German, not very good quality, but she earned some money, and the money was bigger than I earned from the software
From doing
that time.
translation. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and my friends, they started to send money to her, but through me, because I had some international payment system.
Mm.
So that, and with that money came responsibility for the quality, because when the translation was not good quality, they came to me and asked me for charge back.
Uh,
So,
No.
and at that time, I understood that it might be an opportunity to build some smaller, very small business. And I understood that taking this responsibility about the quality and translating could be a business. And so I invited some of the translators, and for the small community of developers, I started to manage the translations. And very quickly, I've built up some revenue stream that that was bigger than the revenue stream from my software.
mhm.
So that's the very DNA of the company start. That's
Yeah.
very 20 years ago, and
Yeah.
then it started to be seriously more serious, and we ended up in more than $10 million of yearly revenue like 2 years ago. This surpassed this threshold, and
Amazing.
the company became more than 100 people. Now it's a little bit less, but it's around. And I knew how to build a company. Through all my life, I've been learning how to build not software, but
But companies, yes.
but company. Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
I have. So
So
that's
so
It's all the other
basically,
stuff.
yeah, so basically Alconost are a service company creating
yes.
helping other companies doing translation. Is it just for software translation or is it for the entire like
Uh,
marketing and content and materials as well?
Yeah, we see our mission is to translate everything that moves toward global market, everything. So
Okay.
maybe it's not medicine. So maybe some not military, not
Mm.
government, not very complicated
Technical
things. But
terms. Yes.
uh, we're quite technical. But what we do
Mm.
is 20% of games,
Mm.
like 30%. Probably of marketing, and the rest is software.
Yeah.
Software, I mean, yeah, user interfaces, documentation, help
Yes.
desks, different articles.
Yes. Yes.
Recent years, it's more and more and more marketing. But we
Yeah.
like games and software, so we
Yeah.
started from that, and with building it. Yeah, we're helping. We're helping to translate into 120 languages. The linguists, they are all native speakers of their languages, and they live in different countries, and it's more than 1,500 people involved in this, so it's
Wow.
quite huge. And every month I have a KPI here. So this metric, every month we are doing some projects for 200 clients. Some of them being with us for 10 years, some short, but
Yeah.
every month I know these, and
Amazing.
they're
Amazing.
most yeah.
Amazing. Now, I
I
have a
wasn't
question
familiar.
actually for you, Matt, because you're our American representative over here. And no offense to Americans, they think they're the center of the world,
Well,
right?
this is where I was going. Yeah, I think I'm not familiar with localization. So everybody
That was
localizes to
exactly
us.
my question.
So yeah, I've never worked the other way around. Everybody just caters to America, right?
Yeah, well, that's really interesting. I mean, coming from Israel, even when I was a developer in Israel, we had a term over there calling it conversion, to convert like the religious conversion, but to
Yeah,
convert software
Mhm.
to Hebrew,
American.
from English to
Yeah.
Hebrew. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
but I, you know, I mentioned earlier in Canada that I needed a lot of French.
Hmm.
In Europe, it's much more than that because in Europe there are so many languages. I don't even know how many languages they speak in Europe, but it's very common over there that you need to have multiple languages, and it's very common that localization companies are coming from Europe, coming from the Far East, coming from
Yes.
places where you have all of those languages. And just to give you a bit more complexity there, Matt, some languages they're very long, like German always make problems
Mm.
because of the space on the screen that you have.
Yeah.
And the words are long, and then they don't really show nicely in the design that English speakers and designers are designing. So design is part of it as well. And of course, conversion to currencies and time and a lot of different things that are part of localization on top of the language itself.
Yeah.
I have something to add to that,
Hmm.
a universe to add to that. So
I'm sure,
if you
I'm
take
sure. Uh,
now, the most complicated thing is the right to left. So in Hebrew,
uh,
so if you have Arabic, if you had ever seen the Arabic Windows, or I don't know, so the start button is on the right, so
yes,
it's completely mirrored.
yes,
And to support this in your software, when you're a European developer, uh, so it's not easy.
yeah,
It's not
yeah.
easy but I have a roadmap. I want to share today with the product developers a roadmap to success with the localized software. So I have
Oh,
several
amazing.
like I know points to pay attention. And Moshe started mentioning the lengths of UI components, the support of Unicode. I have a long list.
Let's
So
so let's dive into that.
yeah,
Tell
be
us about
great.
this roadmap because I'm excited to hear that.
Me too.
yeah, that's from my experience as a developer, and also I observe many clients and
Hmm.
their mistakes they do when
Yeah.
they come. From day one, my best advice for any developer from day one, if you suspect that in the future you will be dealing with some languages, just start with two. Just start with two languages. And this decision is like blue and red, so you decide your future. So if you start with two languages, this implies that you will be doing around 70% of right things towards a truly localized product. Because studying these two languages, you will be implementing switching languages, you will be implementing datetime formats, of course. You will keep your string resources separately from the code. So they will be, to have two languages, you will have not one file, but two files. And it doesn't matter if it's 20 files then in the future.
Yeah.
And then
Just a little note
using,
on that. Just a little note on that.
yeah.
I worked in a company that we supported only English, and even with the English, some of our clients wanted to use different terminology. So if you do
Yeah.
two languages, you kind of do like your default language that your developers or you're thinking about when you build the product. And then the second language can become like customizable for a client. And then you can extend that to as many languages, as many Englishes as you want for your specific client needs.
Yeah,
So,
great
so
point.
yeah,
Oh
so this
yeah.
can help even with that if there is a need for that. Not every product have a need for that, but this one had a need and we couldn't really support it.
Yeah, and I have an example, a good example of white label software. So I recall a software
Mhm.
to manage network attached storages, and it was selling by some large enterprise to different companies under different names. So in the localization was the colors, the logos, and the name of the product, and they built lots of demos just
Yeah,
with different names. That
that's
was
usually
also
what they do there.
Mm.
different English, just one term. Yeah, and that's a very good point. It's called a master language. You should select master language because you will be translating it from English in 100% of cases. Because
Mhm.
to find a translator, we face this when we translate for Asian region. They usually have Korean or Japanese or Chinese source, and then they want to translate to European languages. And imagine how you translate from Chinese to Portuguese. So we need a native speaker of Portuguese who is Chinese, and that's very rare person, and they are perhaps they are not translator and they're very expensive, etc.
Right.
So
Right.
keeping the source language, the master language, it must be English. So that's my one of the best advices to this. And also be prepared for different fonts. So if you ever want to translate into, so you have English, and imagine you will have a Chinese version of the software. So if you use a 9 point of fonts, just the font size, the hieroglyph will be very, very small. And probably in your font, you will not have the glyph. And it will be substituted to some for some default font, and it will be just ugly. It usually happens in the opposite way when we see some Chinese software on the App Store. We download it, we just run it, and we have some very bad looking
I never thought
user
about that.
interface. Yeah, because of
Because of
big
the way the
spaces
Chinese is
between
written.
letters.
Interesting.
Because the hieroglyph is very like big
Yeah.
and the letter is small, so we got this huge spacing, and that's
Yeah.
that's not good. And the software will be selling, will be sold in the and all over the world, and the payment processor. If you have some in-app payments, or you have some payments in the app, that also should be localized from just from the very beginning. But it's like a third-party integration. But it's better to think about it because if you just go and demand American Express in Japan, then nobody has American Express there, absolutely. And even MasterCard and Visa is a rare option just for those who are traveling. And they have their internal cards and cash, and that's so you need some local payment provider. But there are some of them. That was not that was just point number 1 of 8.
Oh, wow.
But they're smaller. We talked about internationalization now. So how do we do that? Our app is capable of supporting different languages, and now we're talking about localization. But first, it's good to check the brand name. Check the brand name against cultures. Because you invent some very good sounding brand name like Alconost. So, and many years later, I checked the brand name, and luckily it has no negative connotations. But there are lots of things named with very strange names, and so it's better to check. Luckily, we have LLMs now. We can ask ChatGPT, how do you, let's take 20 regions, 20 languages, and do the cultural assessment of the brand name. Now it does more or less good, but before, back in time, you would go to some localization vendor provider to check that. So big names, like Toyota, when they deliver their cars to different markets, they have different names.
Absolutely.
Because Japanese names are not very good.
There are still some funny names, like Nissan Juke. Nissan Juke is a weird name in Israel because Juke in Israel is the cockroach.
Yes.
And they still sell it over there under that name. And I'm like, this is weird.
Lots of things like this. Yeah. And also the Chinese car manufacturers, they have so exotic names. Nobody just can able to remember to just remember the name. I don't recall any of the brand because they are not European,
common phrases.
Absolutely non-European sound. They sound not European. And cannot just
exactly.
So the checking the brand name, but that's a small point. Choosing the right format of the string resources is also crucial because I would recommend it so that it be key value format. So there's a key on the right and the value on the a key on the left and the value on the right. So and also it could be structured. So like dialog one or some save dialog dot button save equals save. So this is the right way because it gives the translator the context and the developer has these contexts.
So most of our
The
audience are product managers, and some of them are not technical, so they may not care about these things. But this is usually
yeah.
in the development end of things, like the code itself, how to uniquely identify a keyword and therefore be able to then match it with the source language.
Yeah, and with the recent developments of LLMs, which are now frequently involved into the localization to translation, uh, it's a, it's a good thing that it's not only key value but also some description, some context. Because if you give more context, you will save money on translating it using
Yes.
LLMs, not people. And the more context, the better the quality. So I would recommend that it's a JSON. If it's not like dictated by a platform, like if you use App Store, if you use iOS, then you will be having these localizable strings format, and with Java you will have properties with I don't know. So for websites it's usually PO files, but if you want to be flexible, especially if you have the several something multi-platform. So SaaS with an app for Android and with an app for iOS. So three products, but they share the same part of the code base and the same translatable resources. So JSON is a very good thing. But maybe in Android you will be using the default. So the more default it is, that is better. And here we come to how do we actually do the localization when you already have those translatable resources in their files. It's hard to imagine that you are tossing them by emails through translators. So it's a hell. There are some thousands of files, and that's so for implementing the localization. You need a platform. So no surprise, there are localization management platforms in the world, and they've been evolving 20 years. When I started, there were just the traders, but it was just a standalone app to just translate for translators. But now we have localization platforms, and to name the number one in the world, we work with that is it's called Crowdin. Crowdin. So it's they started from crowdsourcing projects for open source, and so the name. But there are more. There are Phrase, SmartCat, Localize. They come it's slightly different function, a little bit functionality, but in the essence, they allow taking your string resources from your Git repository, for example, directly, or you upload there, maybe through the command line, for example, or just manually, you upload your resources there. They are segmented just to segments. And the translators, they go to that platform and they see not the code, not the key values, the files, but they see the actual things to be translated, the lines to be translated, and they translate. And when it's translated, then you just download your string resources, but you have not the one file original, but you have 20 files in different languages, and they are all the format is there. If you translate an HTML file, you will get 20 HTML files. No, nothing is broken. Everything is beautiful, but in different language. And the platform is the main thing about platform is that it just takes your files in some way. The translators will come in and translate, and then you download, and that's it. And if you have updates, you added one line. to your software. Then it's and you upload again. It's merged like in GitHub, and the only line is translated, and you download the updated string resources.
Yeah. So in
The
essence,
platforms.
Do you use any API for that?
They provide you an API if you want to automate so if you have a continuous delivery CI/CD pipeline, you can automatically push your string resources through API to the platform, and then there are different setups in the platform. You can select the option to translate it automatically, but we are talking about people sitting there. They have notifications about new resources coming for translation. They translate, and in several hours, in 24 hours of the next day, you just download the already translated and proofread string resources to your repository or whatever. So to build a localized build already. So it's a translation in the loop, human in the loop.
Yeah. So in essence, on let's say our product file base and source control, there is all of those resource files for each one of the languages, and then it pushes it into this platform whenever there are updates, and each one of the translation is assigned to a different translator that translate from English or the master language into that specific language that they translate. And when they're saying that we're done, it pushes it back into your source control. So there are integration also, I believe, with GitHub and with other source control.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
That's how it works. There can be different pipelines, different workflows inside localization platform. You can select that everything is translated automatically with Google Translate. Nobody does this, but maybe it can also be in test environments. You get your translations right away. And there are two options doing the localization with platforms. One is it's a build time localization, when you have your localized build and you just upload it to the App Store, for example, and you cannot change anything unless you do the update. That's like the build time. You localized and you have your languages frozen, so you cannot update them on the fly. But there are some SDKs. The platforms, they can give you SDKs to get the translations on the fly. So, and if you have some large number of languages and frequently updated some part of the app, you might use SDK. And the SDK in the app will be sitting in your app, and it will be fetching the translated resources from the platform. But you will be paying for the platform, for this CDN, for their CDN. And if you are multi-million daily average users, you will consider it. You will think twice. And also if it's not properly implemented, you will end up with keys in your interface instead of the values.
Yes.
So the interface might be corrupted. I saw that many times with Bolt app, which is a taxi or European taxi like Grab, like this Uber, and they made this mistake several times. I catch them, so they're using the SDK for updates. But this gives you freedom. You do not update your app on the App Store, which may take time, but you can update your translations right away and even add some more languages if you prefer. So we talked about like choosing a localization platform. It must have GitHub integration, of course, API or command line interface to build into your CI/CD pipeline.
Who do we usually choose the platform? Is it going to be the company, like our audience, they want to translate their product into different languages, or would it be like a company like yours that help them doing it?
The best scenario is that they come to us with a problem, and we consult. We just make some research, interviews, and we understand what they're going to translate, what we're dealing with, and then we recommend some approach. But this is a very dream. It's a dream scenario, right? It doesn't happen.
What's the reality usually?
Well, the reality is that the product people, they come to engineers and say, well, we need a localization, we need to support 3 languages, and that's it. And then that's the problem for developer. And the developer, what they do, they start to invent, because they don't if they know about localization platform, they go straight to the localization platform, and that's it. That's the good scenario. But very often they start to implement some custom solutions, like let's keep our languages in spreadsheets. Very convenient, unless you have more than 1,000 lines and updates. But they just invent something. So perhaps, yeah. So answering to the question, it sometimes comes from an engineer. Engineer would discover at last some localization platform. As a technical mind, they do. They want to find some library. They try to find some SDK, and they suddenly see some platforms. And everybody's the mindset, current mindset, is to find some solutions on the market, and they come with the localization platform. They come to product manager and say, okay, we need this, and this solves the problem. So it's a developer driven. And I know the guys from the platforms, the crowd, and their marketing is based on this. They build they have DevRels, developer relationship, like they are selling a very technical solution and to the developers. So it might be still coming, or some leading developer with this task. The developer will come to the product manager and say, well, we need this solution, and you have your languages. But this is when we speak about product people. But
Yes.
marketing people, that's a different world.
What do you recommend to product people that are listening to us that may not want to just throw it as a developers and say it's your problem, and find the right solution for that fit their product and fit their needs and their vision, and also
sales.
maybe their organization as well?
Yeah, so localization platform keyword is a lifesaver. So they exist. If you just search, then you will get the solution you want. You will understand quickly that there are platforms to support multilingual apps, and just the solution would be using. So one of the important things that it's not only a localization platform, but you need some localization vendor to implement it. So if you use a platform, then who translates? That's the question. Technically, you have the SDK, the pipeline, but there are no translators in the platforms, because they are software developers. What they do, they build platforms. They do not translate. They hate translation. They are engineers. They hate translating because the responsibility and the quality, and you bear responsibility for the quality of the translator's work. Nobody likes this.
That they have no control over. Yes.
Is this where like AI in the future could come in and serve a role there in translation, or does AI just still like the context of like, hey, I know exactly what the local language.
Well, it's a very cutting edge question. So it's very hot topic now in localization world, how we implement AI in localization pipelines. That's an hour long talk.
What's your
high level blurb
what's
on
your
it?
bottom line? Your opinion?
Well, my opinion that LLMs, when prepared, when cooked right, they are capable of translating in very high quality, but they must be supervised. Sometimes they refuse to translate. Sometimes you must give them context as much as possible. So giving to LLM a context means that you have a glossary and must have a glossary, and somebody should build it and who it is, who builds the glossary, you cannot feed just the whole glossary to LLM, especially the modern ones, reasoning models, and because it starts not to be very cheap. You might translate a few lines for just $1, and if it's automated, you have lots of content to translate, then it starts to cost you much. And also there is this context window. Somebody thinks that it's too big, but when you feed the glossary, the translation memory there, or some screenshots, you end up with, so it's too small. And the more you use, the more expensive it is. So when we're translating through API of OpenAI many things, and you just send a request and you get $1.5 per request to translate a few lines, but with the large context. It must be managed.
So if you compare
it must be managed.
If you compare it with how much, and I know usually translation is by the word, the cost for it is by the word, like few cents for
yes,
the word.
token. Yeah, token, which tokens are words.
No, also for real people. So translation for real translators.
Yes.
The cost is by the word. So if you compare it, which one is more affordable?
Good point.
Yeah, affordable, absolutely LLMs, of course. Even the biggest model, they are expensive, but compared to people, they are affordable. But there are lots of tricks. You run the translation and you get some results. Imagine that it translated into Hebrew, for example. If you understand Hebrew, you can run through 10,000 lines to just verify that's everything okay. And suddenly you spot on the line 100 that something is wrong, and you start to disbelieve it, and you want to check, because you cannot just send to production. You're like Sony or just Toyota, and you just translated your documentations with LLMs, and you just go to production. That might cost you some brand. And so somebody should check the translation. LLMs now can check the translation, if you believe that they can translate and check. But what we do is usually people check the translations. Maybe not all of them, as we agree with the client in those pipelines. It's surprisingly to read the text for a translator, understanding what's happening there, and just being in the context. It's only like 2 or 3 or 4 times faster than writing the text by themselves. So it's only like maybe 2 times cheaper to the end client, because it's not writing but reading. But it's not 100% discount. If the human is involved, then you remember the responsibility. Somebody must be responsible for the quality. And if it's LLM, then it's your engineer. You will come to your engineer and say, well, you delivered a wrong translation. And the engineer would say, it's not me, it's LLM. And then you go to Mark Zuckerberg, maybe some home who is responsible for that the translation is not good. So the the language vendor like us, we just take this responsibility. We guarantee the quality. LLMs or people, we check everything. We have techniques. We have lots of metrics to automatically check the quality. 10 different metrics with LLMs, and then there's people. And in some setups, just translating with a human is the best option. It's faster. It just works. That's the good word. It just works, because to implement LLMs, if you're doing it by yourself, you need an engineer who at least understand how the prompting works, how the batching works. So you must build something. Platforms will help you, but it's still not that just push a button and you get a result.
Yeah.
It's still in the development, like
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an important point.
building from source code.
Yeah. Let me ask you a different question. You mentioned earlier about the
Yeah,
context, and the context is
yes,
important. And one
absolutely.
of the major issues I always had in the past was that the developers would not put enough context in the information they send to the translators. And then the translators really translate out of context. Some
Yeah.
translators were good enough to ask the question, what is the context here? So they understand the and do a right job there. Most translators didn't do that. And then we caught it either by some local, in Canada, we're very lucky, or in Toronto, we're very lucky to have people from all over the world working here. It's very multinational. So I would always have, someone that is French speaker so they could read it and see what's going on and see if the translation is okay. But even when I
Yeah.
translated to other languages, and I was working once in a startup that we translated to 13 languages, I was able to find people that would speak those languages to read it. Most of the languages, not everything. So we did a little of our QA in there. But there was always this back and forth about the context and the right translation because there are nuances and there are different meanings in languages for different words. So
Yeah, yeah.
how do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And if your translator do not translators do not ask questions, that is very suspicious. Something is going wrong there. So if you have a platform with those files, uh, the translators would ask questions right there in the comments. If they do not understand what's the context of some word or some phrase, they would ask questions, and they will ask, and you as a product people, you will be answering. You will be replying to their comments, and that will help. This is your involvement and a good translation vendor, they would be very transparent and show you the linguists' names, and you will have them, even to the extent you will have them in your Slack channel. So you will have the project manager, localization project manager from a vendor provider, your account manager to see that everything is going right, and the translators. And this transparency allows building mixed environments. When you have some, for example, 4 languages translated by your staff, internal staff, because you have those people, and the other one just a dozen languages, just 10 languages more, they are coming from, for example, us. And we just sharing the localization platform environment and the Slack channel, and we are like your team extension. So this asking questions about the context happens in the platform. And in the platform, if you're a good developer, then you could upload your screenshots. So I would do just maybe automated, just doing all the possible screenshots of your software, and you just upload to the platform. And the platform, I know that Crowding does this. They do this recognition of the texts in those screenshots, and whenever it sees that the thing you are translating happens appears in some of the screenshots, they will show the screenshot for the translator, and the translator would have the context. At least he will see, or they will see the user interface for that line. And of course, this key value also gives the context. If the key is like save button, then it's save button. It's not just save something else. This gives the context and also the questions. And if you have a long relationship with the localization vendor, you have your translators that are attached to your project. And if you are translating, you've been translating your software for 5 years, for some years, there will be the same translator
Right.
just doing
Right.
it, so they will know. They
So
will
there
know,
is
and
knowledge over time.
that's the difference from LLMs. They
Yes.
maybe with time they will evolve, but now especially when translating games, the linguist will love the game, will play the game, will understand what he's doing, like a developer develops. And also, you mentioned this very important part is quality assurance. When the software is built, and then you check if everything is good. So
Yes.
it's hourly. It's usually hourly based. It's a service that we also provide when we translate it and we have a build. We ask our dozens of translators to see to install the software, to see how to look at it in their region, in their language, to test how the payments are going, how it looks, and they just report bugs like your testers into your Jira, or what you use, a Trello, what you are using the bug tracking system that like your
Yeah.
developers.
Yeah.
So I would name I would say that the localization vendor is like part of your team. It's part-time, but it's your people.
Yeah.
Very openly, you just
Yeah.
task by task. This
So
is
that definitely over time helps with the context.
yeah, and also the dictionary. The dictionaries are very important. Not the dictionaries, but the glossary. It must be built. I would say it's a must-have because in glossary would contain some very some terms, especially when you're translating a game. There are character names, there are locations, there are items, and if you buy an item and it suddenly renames in the next version, so you had an axe and then you have just sword and they are mixed. So what's happening?
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah.
I paid money and you changed that. So the glossary for games is very important, and for all kinds of software, it's also important.
Yeah,
It contains
absolutely.
terms.
Absolutely.
That's
I mean,
consistency.
in games, I guess they can invent whatever they want, in the world of the game. In the real
Yeah.
world, we're sometimes getting different meanings for the same words, and that can become really confusing if we
Yeah.
use interchangeable terminology, or if we sometimes use the same term for different things, or if there is a terminology in the market space that we're selling to and we're not using that terminology specifically. That's also why the point that we made earlier about getting having even in English a master language and a second language, because the developers sometimes the developers come up with their own. I was a developer, so I know they come up with their own terms for things based on how they want to save it in the database and how they want to put it in their code. But these terms don't really mean much to the real world, and you want to change that term. And if you have that master ability to change it, then it's not even a developer. You don't need to write a ticket to the developer, go and change it everywhere to this term. You just do it in the source, and that's in the source language, and that's it. And I have been in situations that the developers gave me access to just that, just the language,
Yes.
source language, not to the entire code, but just to that. And then I was able to use whatever term, we came up with as part of our product management work, talking with users and all of that stuff. And we were just able to change it quickly without having a ticket in the backlog and waiting for the developers until they get to this priority to change it.
Yeah, great point. Great point. And there are systems. I recall this is called Gridley, just created for game developers just for that reason. So it's when they talk about localization, it's a content repository. It's just you have some separate content repository, and you have all the string resources there, all the text as a product people, and the developers just fetch what they want from those from that
Yeah,
repository, and that's it. You have
yeah,
the freedom to change everything. And
yeah,
also when developing products, one of the roles is overlooked is everybody has designers, right? So in Figma, they design dialogue windows with some phrases, but sometimes the role of UX copywriter is overlooked. So
yeah,
the text that you see is also designed. So we invest like $500 into just drawing an icon, but we don't invest that money to just to create good sounding, just
Absolutely.
readable strings on it. But that's more important than the
Yeah,
color of your dialogue or the size of the button. It's much more
absolutely.
important.
Yeah,
And so yeah, and the platforms, when you have this key value, you have this freedom to change the master language right at the platform. So you go to the platform. We are translating our own website using this. So the copywriter just goes to just the localization platform. They change the original, and then it's just the next build appears in the production, and no developer involved. And
yeah,
sometimes it's very hard for developer to just write a few words, a description. They would not like it.
yeah. There is
Uh,
more complexity to that also with translation of copy, mainly because
yeah,
there is a dynamic text sometime that is based on some data. So let's say
yes,
that you need to have a sentence and the sentence has in the middle some,
placeholders.
yeah, exactly,
So yeah.
placeholders for data that comes from the database, like a number or text or whatever it is. The structure of that text in English might be very different from the structure of that text in other languages. So the translator have to know where to put these placeholders. And then the data in the database might not be translated as well. So if it is
Yeah.
a number, it's easy. But if it is a word that is not a name, then you have to deal with that as
Mhm.
well. So there is a lot of complexities like that. Again, once you start translating a product into other languages, you will get into all of these situations of, you know, translating all the error messages and translating all the email messages, notifications that are coming out of the system. And there is a lot. We can talk about these for hours.
Yeah.
Um, I think
Yeah, yeah.
I think we already spoke for an hour almost.
Yeah.
Um, Matt, do you have any other questions for Alex?
Maybe for part two, we'd have to we'd have to have another episode because
Let's have part
I
two.
wonder
Yeah.
how the value of it, not having done localization, thinking about the value to the customer, the business, and thinking about analytics. Obviously, is something that I'm always interested in. I made a change. How is that looking in my analytics and success metrics? So,
Hmm.
but maybe that's for another episode. But
It
yeah, I
is a
really
very
appreciate this.
interesting, it is a very interesting question. We talked our first series ever on the podcast 4 years ago was about product analytics. And we were talking about products that are
Hmm.
tooled in like Pendo and Amplitude, etc. They
Hmm.
have, and then we
Hmm.
talked also about A/B testing in other
Hmm.
series. All of those
Yeah,
systems will have a way to deal with translations as well. It becomes a
absolutely.
bit more complex because you also have segmentation, so segment of people based on the language that they're speaking, and then you have and the, the complexity there is that sometimes the system will recognize your localization based on where you are, and sometimes the
Hmm.
system will force you to choose a language.
Uh,
So some web applications will just do it based on the browser and the IP
yeah.
address. Some of them will say, we don't want to rely on that. You need to choose a language yourself, and they keep that language in the system. Yeah, so you can do different things based on that. And then when you do analytics on your product, if you associate your analytics with, let's say, a button on the screen,
Hmm.
and the button says something in English and it says something in French or in another language, is it the same button?
Yeah.
So to the users, to us, it should be the same button because it's really about the flow of what they're doing. So there is a lot of aspects of when you have multiple languages, how do you analyze usage of products in the system? I had to deal with that again, when I implemented Pendo with a French speaking and English speaking
Gotcha.
product. And sometimes you don't think about it, and then you realize what happened to my numbers here.
Yeah, that's what I was
Is
wondering
it
about.
is it all of them, or is it just the English ones? And so it becomes a bit tricky. So you always have to have that in mind, these things.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, just one very important thing is for product people who want to localize. Sometimes we want to localize everything, but it's expensive. So the best advice for localization, where to start, is to localize the main user journey. So you don't have to localize everything, but the main user journey, how they come to your website. So they have the page on their in their language, and they how do they buy? What they see on their user journey, the most important thing. And this is also about A/B testing. So there are so-called onboarding screens that are very important. If you have an app, you download it from App Store. So it's 2, 5, 7, just 10 seconds, and they uninstall it. But if judging on the onboarding screen, they just swipe, understand something, and then just delete. But if you are good at these onboarding screens, you get the retention, and they stay. And if it's it's not their language, then the chances are very very low. But when starting testing waters with localization, you could just translate just one page, just the App Store description and the starting screens of the app, and then you have the numbers. You see that French people with French onboarding screens, at least they finish the onboarding, and French people with English screens, they just, well, where is my French, and they just delete the app because they truly want to do this in French. So the localizing user journey, it's not everything, but translating everything doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a
To the
great point.
journey, and that's, yeah.
On the other end, this is a great start. On the other end, you also have to consider that as a part of the quality of your product. So the same way as anything else have quality, like, and people will look sometimes with a toothpick to see, oh, this doesn't work, so your entire product sucks. Sometimes
Yes.
you will have those language police people, especially in Quebec.
Yes.
If anyone listening to us from Quebec, I know that
Yes.
some of you exist over there. And even if one item will not be translated somewhere in a very remote area of your product, they will complain about it. So
Yes,
it's
that's
really
true.
about, what is the quality level of your product that you want to put out there, and what is their perception of quality. Is it a bug if something is not translated and it will offend your users, or is it okay to have it because it's not a big deal, right? So that's another thing to consider. I think that was you're right, Matt. We might need a second.
I know.
Maybe that will be only on AI products and the AI discussion.
There we go. There we go.
But that's why I thought this would be great to have Alex on the show, because it's such an interesting topic for everyone outside of the US. And
Absolutely.
hopefully our friends in the US, we are giving you some education over here.
This is extremely helpful. Having not worked in the localization space, it's opened my eyes to thinking about how to use it, and then obviously like with AI and stuff like that. But yeah, so
Yeah.
very, very nice. Thanks for coming on the show, Alex.
Yes. Thank you so much, Alex. Where can people reach out to you?
Thank you very much. So I'm on LinkedIn, of course, Alexander Murauski, maybe. And also just am@alconost.com. This is my email. And you just remember, Alconost is localization, and that's you. That's everything you need to know. We give free consultations, so if you're ever thinking about localizing your product,
Amazing.
Give you a
I'll be
buzz.
happy
Yeah.
to help. Yeah.
Amazing. And Alex did mention a few products throughout the show, but he knows all the products in this space. He also developed a
Yeah.
couple of products. So there are a couple of products that
Yes.
are developed by Alconost to help with a few things. So check out the website. We will put the website also in the description, and I believe that these products can be explored over there. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex. Really appreciate it. Great learning about the work you're doing with localization. Thank you, Moshe, as always. Thank you to all the listeners, and we'll talk to everybody next time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you to all the listeners. We really appreciate the feedback and support. Please leave us a review to help others find the show. on Apple or Spotify or anywhere else you're listening to the show.